Hello everyone. Today I will be cataloging every skill in monster cards on this here tier list. So, first off, Assassin. Personally, I think Assassin is a solid B tier skill. It's a discard skill, which is very nice, especially since it's got low cost, and it can deal very well with another player's hand. Like it can deal with like threats in a player's hand. So if you suspect someone might have something strong in their hand, right? You could pull out an assassin card, hit them with it, boom. Although the only drawback, it's random. Still pretty good card in my opinion. Although, yeah, some cards are just a little bit better in my opinion, personally. But Assassin's a good, solid card. So I give that a B tier. Bolt from the blue. I will have to put you in C tier. C tier for Bolt of the Blue, or Bolt from the Blue. Basically the reason I'm putting that there is, of course, it swaps all compatibilities, which you can do some pretty crazy shit with. But if you're building it, you kind of have to commit to it. Now, Bolt from the Blue is a powerful game changer, don't get me wrong. But like, you really have to commit to it if you're building a Bolt to the Blue deck. Although there are ways around it, stuff like choice and other shit like that. Bolt from the Blue. It's a fine game changer, pretty good. Yeah, C tier. Now, Bushido. This one is This one's a little difficult. I'm gonna put Bushido in B tier because it does block the attacking zone, albeit for one turn. But if you have a high power card and you lock the attack zone, your opponent is going to be forced to deal with that, especially if it's something like a dragon special. But Bushido, it's a solid ability. Not particularly amazing, not particularly horrible, just good. It's just all around pretty good. Now, Causality Manipulation, D tier. It works on like 3 cards, benefits 2 of them. It's not it just makes dice skills land on ones more. It doesn't benefit, like, it doesn't benefit Sky High at all, for example. So no, that's not very good. The 2 skills that it does benefit are Crit, which is pretty good, and Fascinate, which is, it depends. It really depends on Fascinate. Chaser, I'm gonna have to put Chaser in S tier, or first S tier. So the reason for that is because Chaser is incredibly versatile. It is a very versatile skill. So what you can do with Chaser is, like, say you're playing, like, if you're playing free for all or 1v1. Well, it's not very good in 1v1, so I guess I'll bring it down to A. But in free for all, which is normal, or teams, Chaser is one of the best kind of cards you can have. Basically, Chaser, what that does is it allows you to choose who goes next in the turn order. It is amazing because you can either make a really weak fodder Chaser in order to allow your friend in team battles to set something up, or you can make a very powerful, maybe ultra rare, high damage Chaser, which I think is how it was originally intended, and essentially either like bully someone or like skip someone's turn. You can do a lot with this. It's just a very good skill in general. So yeah, Chaser's great. Cheer, C tier. Cheer is an interesting one. It's very situational, but when it is in use, it can be very good, and it can mean the difference between losing and winning or tying. So basically, cheer. It just gives you shorthand advantage, which is very nice. Just one shorthand advantage, and what's nice about cheer is that you don't actually have to play it to the discard if you want, because if you just like have it die like in the battlefield, then it goes to the discard and activates anyway, which no other discard skill does. And that's kind of unique about cheer. And yeah, the thing with cheer is like the opportunity cost. Why would you have cheer when you can have something like, say, revive or I don't know, like snipe, which are two of the best skills in the game. The cheer, it's pretty good overall. It's not terrible, and it can definitely help you in certain situations. But its effect can also pretty easily be overturned, and it's generally it's a very acceptable skill. All right, next up. Next up, choice. Now I'm kind of debating whether or not to put this in S or A tier, because choice is a very, very powerful skill. It essentially allows you to have two different card builds in one, although you have to move from defense to offense. So if you play this straight into the offense zone, there's no point, the choice won't activate, your card will be in its lesser form. What's really nice about choice is it allows you to make two different builds for a card, and it's got unique EX skills, being future and alternate future, which don't do anything normally, but on the ultra rare they provide a surge and a heal surge effect, which the heal surge isn't present anywhere else in the game, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, with this you can actually make some very powerful cards, and you can it's like having two cards in one basically. So the downside really is like the downside with most of the high evolution EX cards. If you want the different effect, you kind of have to place it in defense. You have to place it in defense in order to get the choice between the two builds. Or alternatively, I guess you could put it just like in the offense zone and have it be like a third build. But there's no real reason to do that. It's better to make it a defensive card and have two offensive builds. So it kind of relies on winning in defense in order to do its thing, which is fine, but it's not the greatest in the world, even though it is very good. If I had to say, and then it also does suffer from a lot of the kind of evolution style stuff. The increased power, while normally a good thing, is also subject to Giant Killer, which is a very powerful, very dangerous skill. You do not want to be on the wrong end of a Giant Killer skill. But yes, I'd say either A or S tier. I'm going to put it in S tier actually, because I think the positives really outweigh the negatives for choice. Choice is just a very good overall card, although it does self-damage on the ultra rare. Okay, now, soldier, or I guess this is commander. Commander is decent. It's good when you want to stall or you need more of a defensively oriented card, but it gives you common cards. Common cards aren't the greatest, or rare cards, which are significantly better. But yeah, commander, I'm gonna have to put that in B tier, because having a bunch of common cards can actually end up fucking you over sometimes. If it clogs up your hand and you're not running a trick deck, your hand is going to be clogged up. It's not going to be good. Yeah, you're going to be having a bad time. Commander, it's decent. It's got a lot of tech, but it is not the best for a beginner. and it can damage you in the long run sometimes. Okay, critical. I will also have to put critical in, I'd say maybe A. The reason I'm putting critical in A, actually no, I'll put critical in B. Critical is pretty inconsistent. That's the thing about it. So, normal critical, it has a chance to double your attack, which is very good if it's better at higher attack powers, and it can be very good. However, the ultra rare variant, of course, yeah, triples the attack, which could decimate a player, but there is a chance that it will not do anything at all. And critical does get benefited by causality manipulation, which is one of the less dangerous game changers. Critical, it's out of all of the attacking skills, critical is very inconsistent, and for that, it's in B tier. Dark Summon, S tier. Dark Summon is one of the best skills in the game. It is, like, it's not really healing, it's like a pseudo form of healing. It's got one of the best, it's just got one of the best standard skills, it's got one of the best ultra rares. Really, really good all-around skill. What Dark Summon does is it allows you to summon your graveyard monsters into the defense zone, which is really great if you, like, say, you lost an ultra rare, and you can use it on yourself, which is amazing because you can actually see what the top card in your graveyard is. If you know for a fact maybe you got someone's ultra rare, then you can end up using a Dark Summon to retrieve it. The ultra rare for Dark Summon adds it to your hand instead of the deck, so you could basically steal someone's card, save it for later, or if you have an ultra rare that you really don't want to give up or like get buried in your discard, play an ultra rare revive. Not revive. Ultra rare revive is good too. We'll get to that. Ultra rare Dark Summon. Bring it back into your hand. Very good skill. Deserves an S tier spot. The discard, low cost, you know. Divine Nullification, D tier. There is an argument for putting it in C tier, because it is very annoying to fight against. It disables all skills, all healing, and unless you make a deck specifically revolving around it, you are fucked. You are utterly fucked. But of course, it is a game changer. Actually, you know what? No, I'll put it in C tier. Because, what's it? Divine Nullification is the only game changer that is immune to suppression, which is very powerful. Incredibly powerful. It's a powerful game changer, but the problem with it is it doesn't have a lot of synergy with other cards, and that makes it makes it harder to use. Dodge, B tier. It's not. Yeah, that's A tier. I'll put Dodge in B tier. Dodge is not the greatest in 1v1s. It just lets you basically draw another card. Its common form isn't the greatest. It lets you ignore, I think, cards with attack 2 or less, or attack 3 or less, something like that. Yeah, no, I think it's attack 2 or less. But Ultra Rare Dodge just allows you to essentially shunt off someone else's Ultra Rare onto someone else, which is very good if you don't want to deal with that shit. So, Dodge is overall, it's a discard skill, so that's good. It's overall pretty decent. It's not terrible. It's you could put it in your deck, it's not bad. Okay, Double Edge. I'm kind of debating where to put Double Edge, because on one hand, Double Edge could seriously fuck you up if you play it wrong. Like, this is not a card you want to just plop down in, like, willy-nilly. You want to know what you're doing before you play a Double Edge. Because potentially a Double Edge could be very powerful, or it could absolutely fuck up your deck. I'm going to put Double Edge in B, since in the current update, defensive Double Edge is usable, which allows you to essentially see your opponent's skill matchups, and then use a Double Edge when appropriate. The thing about Double Edge is once that's in, other people can easily take advantage of your Double Edge, which, yeah, Double Edge, but it does have a high potential for burst damage, so it's pretty good. Double Edge is a pretty good card, but it's not the greatest, and if used wrong, you could get fucked over. Alright, what's next? Elemental Torrent, one of my old favorites. With a sad heart, I think I'll have to put Elemental Torrent in C tier. It just makes you always win at your element. It's pretty good. A guaranteed win is nice, but it doesn't do that much. Especially if you're running with a variety of cards, and you're kind of if you're running with Elemental Torrent, you're kind of forced into one element, or Wild Element. Wild Element's great, but yeah, it's not the best. It's got pretty good synergy, so I might actually bump it up to B tier. It's got synergy with a lot of skills, but it isn't, especially with Wild Element. But it is ultimately it's kind of a okay game changer. Evolve. An old favorite of mine. Unfortunately, that shorthand advantage does not do Evolve any favors. I cannot tell you how many times I have lost an Evolve card due to that little shorthand advantage, which is fair because the final form you get out of evolving is very powerful, but and oftentimes I feel that extra power boost can be worth the risk, especially since it allows you to build two cards in one. You can have a defensive, you could have a defensive build or an offensive build, and it increases in rarity, which is also really nice. So Evolve is a really good card to use on super rares. With ultra rares, you can get a very, very nasty powerhouse out of Evolve. So it is quite good. I do recommend it. I think it's a solid A tier skill. Okay, Fascinate, C tier. In 1v1s, Fascinate is fucking awful. Its ultra rare does not do anything in 1v1s. It is dog shit. It does not do anything, but in larger lobbies, you can steal cards from pretty much everybody just by putting it in. And I feel like the card, it is probably one of the worst. Actually, I'm gonna move it down to D tier just because of how useless it is in 1v1s. And it's got a pretty low chance anyway, but I'd say it's probably the worst out of the card stealing ones. So, but other than that, it's okay. It's not the best. It's far from the worst. Although, it's pretty down there. It's not, like, ordered in any particular way, but, yeah. Basically, Fascinate is kind of mid. Alright, Finishing Blow, F tier. Finishing Blow one-shots your opponent. But it gets so much fucking shorthand disadvantage, you are almost never going to see it happen. Finishing Blow is probably, currently, one of the worst skills in the game. Finishing Blow, well, yes, you can bait someone into, switching into a finishing blow by using In the Dark, which is really the only good way to use it. Or you could potentially make it really nasty with Bolt from the Blue. But those are really finishing blows, only two synergies, besides maybe Species Pride plus Cheer, which Species Pride and Cheer are kind of mid anyway. Finishing blow is just genuinely an awful skill, as it is currently. It used to be a lot better, but currently it is not that. And what's kind of funny about finishing blow, its ultra rare ability is an active fucking, like, it actively inhibits finishing blow. Its ultra rare ability has it lock the attack zone. If you switch into a if you try to switch into a finishing blow, you know what it does? It fucking kills you. And yeah, you know what happens when you die? Your card that you're trying to switch in goes to the ruins. It's already, just by existing, the game changer is already, not game changer, the attack zone is already effectively fucking locked just by having a finishing blow card in it. The ultra rare locks the attack zone, which does literally nothing. And even worse, if you're playing In the Dark, an ultra rare finishing blow, when it locks the attack zone, it reveals it's a fucking finishing blow, which you do not want on an In the Dark. Finishing blow is dog shit. Friendship. B tier. Friendship, its removal. It's pretty good. It's okay. It could be better. Friendship used to be better. It got nerfed a lot. Its ultra rare is still pretty good, but I've very often seen a lot of other skills used over friendship. Its other, friendship's other, like, rarities, you have to match the rarity in order to remove it with friendship. I feel like if it worked more similarly to suppression, friendship would be a lot better, and maybe, I don't know, more balanced. I'm not 100% sure. But currently, friendship is hard carried by its ultimate, which, yeah. Friendship's okay. It's not terrible. It's not the greatest. It used to be amazing, but, how the mighty have fallen. Giant Killer, S tier. Giant Killer allows, like, this is a card, Giant Killer. You want that on a card with low attack, because the lower your attack on Giant Killer, the higher chance you will encounter a card that Giant Killer will basically double its longhand movements against. That's how it works. Longhand movements in favor of the giant killing card are doubled. That's amazing, but only when its attack is lower than the opposing card. What's even better is its ultra rare ability, which basically it completely fucks over anyone using choice or evolution or critical or any of these like high attack cards, because it instantly wins. It is an instant removal that is just very good. You could play it anywhere, you could play it on any deck. It fits really well, it's very versatile, it is one of the best skills in the game, and it's great. Use Giant Killer. Greed. Okay, Greed. C tier. Greed does allow you to draw more cards, which is nice, but your cards are your health, which is not so nice. And its ultimate ability allows you to draw 2 more cards. Essentially, it's Pot of Greed from Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's 4 cards. it can be used in some strategies, some very bonkers, ridiculous strategies that will be, I think, nerfed soon. But overall, there's better discards you could use. Greed is okay, but you know, it's a lot of self-damage. B, are you really sure are you really sure that you wanna be like just taking cards from your deck, and then maybe you get hit with a fucking choice, you know, evolution, something like that, high power Bushido, lose a bunch of cards. It's not, I don't think Greed is generally worth it, although it's okay as filler. Curse, A tier, or I guess Grudge, A tier. Basically, Grudge, when you lose, it gives your opponent a poison card, or a curse card technically, but it's basically like pre-patch poison. The reason Grudge is so great is, of course, it's good on high value cards, because that discourages people from just replacing it. And if it's beaten, it, you know, punishes those who win, which is those who won against your card, which is very nice by giving them, you know, a nasty card. And its ultra rare ability is okay. It's not its ultra rare ability, I feel, is what really holds it back. Basically, what Grudge's ultra rare does is it increases the damage of the discard's card that they get. But the thing is, no one in their right mind is gonna discard a card that like makes them take 4 damage. They're gonna play it in like offense or something, and like you'd rather give someone a free setup than take just 4 damage just from nothing. No one in their right mind is gonna be you know, discarding a Grudge or a Curse that from an ultra rare Grudge card. But overall, I do think Grudge is quite good. It's very good for hand jamming people. And yeah. Ultimately, pretty good card. Heal, A tier. In some ways, Heal and Revive are, like, some ways Revive kind of outclasses Heal, but Heal is still quite good. It's a flat healing amount. Its ultra rare is 2 healing. It used to be 3. 2 is a pretty good, pretty balanced number. Yeah, it just heals you 1 when you play it. It only costs 1 card, unlike, you know, discards which cost multiple because they don't end your turn right away. It's a little, like, it's a standard skill, so it can be a little expensive. Overall, Heal is very solid. You can fit it on a deck. No one will judge you for using Heal, it's just a good card in general. In the Dark. It's a game changer. In the Dark. I'm inclined to give it an A tier. This is the game changer that makes Finishing Blow good. It doesn't have too much impact. Like, at first it doesn't have too much impact on the game. It's got the same game changer thing. It locks the zone for 3 turns. But it hides card information in the offense zone, and that makes it a really good game changer to attack with. And what really sets it apart from other game changers is, unless you're running a Finishing Blow deck or Double Edge deck, most cards can function pretty independently from this. So In the Dark is good because it just adds that little extra bit of oomph to your cards without being like super over centralizing. It's pretty good. Jump Scare. C. Jump Scare is only really good for countering essentially Commander, Stall. Like, it's a direct counter to Commander, actually. But yeah, so basically, if you're going up against a friend who uses Revolution decks a lot, you might want to take a few jump scare cards. But other than that, they're okay. They're just okay. Because, like, they affect you too. They can clear your hand of, like, say, common discards. And, like, they can clear everyone's hand of commons, which is, it's okay. But oftentimes you're going to be using those common discards to, like, either, like, shuffle your deck, or like, pick up a nuke, like, heal, or shoot someone, something like that. So, generally, jump scare's okay. Good against Revolution decks, but not something you might want in every deck. Kick Out, A tier. Kick Out, it just instantly removes a card from the board. It's removal, but it kicks it back into the opponent's hand, so they could just play it again. However, it gives you a good amount to just not deal with someone, and it's very powerful in teams. Like, absurdly powerful in teams. If a Kick Out kicks out another Kick Out, that Kick Out is just gone. But, well, it goes to the graveyard, which is fine. You could, like, get that back with maybe a Dark Summon or heal. But, like, meh. What's fun about Kick Out is it allows you to activate people's skills multiple times. So if you're on teams and you just keep kicking out someone's, I don't know, say Trapper card, you can just fill their entire deck with traps, and it's very funny, because anytime someone tries to attack them, they instantly fucking die. So, fun. It's fun. Doesn't have the best use in free-for-all or, like, singles, but overall, pretty alright. Lightning. A tier. Lightning is very good. I would say it's probably one of, like, the better, I guess, like, trigger effects. So basically, whenever it shifts to someone's turn, they get hit with 1 damage. 1 extra damage. It's nice. Its ultra rare is basically just Menace, which is also okay. Lightning is just better than Menace, though, in my opinion. It's great. It goes every turn. It just functions really nicely. It's a good, consistent skill that you can have on a card. It's good, consistent damage. If you have Team Kill off, which generally you do, it's not going to target you. But if you do have Team Kill on, like you might have in, say, Teams, you might want to skip out on it. But other than that, it's solid. Lightning is pretty solid. So, yeah. If you're ever, like, struggling to think of maybe an offensive card to use in just a general deck, consider Lightning. Live on stage. I think this is the only game changer I can reasonably put in S tier. Live on stage gives skillless cards a significant advantage over cards with skills. Like, it turns every neutral matchup into a positive one for cards without skills facing cards with skills. Most cards you're going to be facing are going to have skills. So if you're running, yeah, of course they are pretty reliant on the game changer, the skillless cards that you may be running. But they aren't entirely they aren't entirely dependent on it, because you can still play pretty good skillless cards without it. Like, for example, the Blood Dragon in the sample deck is a pretty good example of an ultra rare skillless card that you could potentially use with Live on Stage. It's quite good. Yeah, Live on Stage is just a genuinely amazing game changer. Like, although you kind of have to build your deck around it, Live on Stage is just generally just such a good game changer it's like one of the, like, it's worth it. It's worth picking up. It is worth picking up live on stage. Next up, meditation. A tier. Lets you shuffle your hand. That's good. There's not much more to say about that. It costs a card. It lets you shuffle your hand. If you get a bad one, it's okay. I guess the only problem with it could potentially be like the RNG. You might get a bad hand, not get meditation, but it's generally just good to have on hand. Mind's Eye. C tier. Actually, I could, like, Mind's Eye, it nullifies basically shorthand advantage. So cheer, species pride, that kind of stuff. But when ultra rare, it doubles it. It's okay. It's just kind of mid. Because, like, you kind of have to dedicate a whole deck to, like, running that in order to get, like, maximum possible shorthand advantage. Also, if you're running bait, yeah, and that's only for the ultra rare version. If you are it can be good against those kind of decks. But if you're going up against someone who's bringing finishing blow, for the love of God, do not play a Mind's Eye card. That will get rid of finishing blow's incredible disadvantage, and you will probably die. So just be warned of that. Yeah. Oblivion. C tier. Regular Oblivion, it removes the lowest cost card from everyone's hand. This could potentially be very bad if you're, like, relying on, say, a heal or something like that. And the ultra rare Oblivion, end your turn because it moves everyone's hand into the discard pile. Really? Oblivion is only good for trolling. Parry. D tier. Mostly because I'm too smooth-brained to use it. I feel like parry is an incredibly complex skill. It requires you to perfectly tie with your opponent, which is oftentimes not going to happen. Sometimes it does, but if you're going to tie with your opponent, you're probably going to have to, like, you can fit it in a lot of decks, especially game changer reliant ones, but you generally have to tailor it to each deck, which is, you know, it could be annoying. It could be very difficult to actually land. The ultra rare version does 3 damage when it lands, which is very nice. I'd say that parry's best use is maybe on a common card as an ultra rare buster. It's just generally, I feel, a good use for the skill. So, but other than that, it's not the greatest. You could run better things. Petrifying Fear. B tier. It used to be broken. It's not as broken anymore. Essentially, it just removes the element matchup in the defender's favor. So basically, you can only get a tie or a loss if you are the defender in the element matchup. It's in that regard, it's very similar to Elemental Torrent, because it kind of makes element not really matter as much, but where Elemental Torrent gets a win, Petrifying Fear can only result in a win or a tie in that regard. Of course, it can still be useful, but, like, and it can work with any element. That's good. That's important. It's more versatile than Elemental Torrent. So it really depends on what you want. They're about equal, I'd say, in terms of ranking. If you want more versatility, go with Petrifying Fear. If you want a mono deck, you go that always wins on the element, Go with Elemental Torrent. Poison. How the mighty have fallen. I'd say Poison is still B tier. It's the main reason Poison isn't as good as it used to be is A, its Ultra Rare got changed. Its Ultra Rare is still pretty good. It basically gives it the effect of Grudge, where when it loses, it gives the opponent a Poison card. It gives 2 Poison cards on hit still, but Poison was changed so that when you play it, you actually draw a card as well as take damage. This ain't the greatest. It's not the greatest. Like, you could do better. Just use Grudge. Grudge is just kind of better in a lot of ways than Poison. Although Poison is good for hand jamming, you still kind of have to land that. Okay. Now, we come to Pressure. Pressure is kind of a mixed bag. It's a one-time thing, you put it in, it does some damage. The regular version only targets the attack zone, the player in the attack zone. The Ultra Rare version targets the Game Changer as well. And the Ultra Rare version is also very good because it removes any card with a power of 1. What's really nice about that is that a lot of people use Game Changers with a power of 1 in order to keep the cost down. So generally, if you're playing with someone who has a Game Changer of 1, even if it's locked, you can play Pressure and it will be removed, which is very nice. It was one of their very few anti-Game Changer ones before, anti-Game Changer stuff before 1.18. But yeah, overall it's okay. The main reason it's not in A tier, I feel, is because if your Game Changer is in the zone, it will remove your game. It will damage you and hit your Game Changer. It is not good with. It is not compatible with Game Changers. So yeah. Yeah. That's where Pressure goes. Pressure goes in B tier. Protection. S tier. Protection is just one of those good, reliable bread and butter cards. Reducing damage by 3 is very useful. You can use it to get out of a lot of situations, even if your card ends up losing. Basically, win or lose, whatever card you got protection on does its job. Protection is also nice in the Ultra Rare, although maybe it's better utilized as either as a common card, because, you know, cheap, spammable, you can just throw it out, you reduce damage from other players' large Ultra Rare cards, which is very nice. The Ultra Rare version of Protect protects you from everything. So that includes stuff like, let's say, snipe damage, which is very potent. You know, other players' attacks. It protects you from lightning. It protects you from pressure. It protects you from double edge. It protects you from all sorts of stuff that would be really, really nasty otherwise. Of course, regular Protect doesn't protect you from these things, but it's good to protect yourself against higher damage cards with regular Protect. Ultimately, it is a very good, very versatile skill that, you know, anyone could, like, you can fit it on any deck. Return. I'm sorry. It's not good anymore. Return is so fucking mid now. And yeah, Return used to be one of those very reliable bread and butter kind of moves. But now, Return has fallen from grace. If you play Return in defense, it just dies. It doesn't work. It doesn't move into the offense zone like every other card. Now it just moves to the discard, and you have essentially wasted a card. Which one of Return's amazing, best traits was that it let you conserve cards, and in order to get that effect now, you have to play it into the attack zone, which can be risky for a good amount of reasons, and generally, Return is not what it used to be, and I don't think it should have been nerfed. But it could just be my personal bias, but I'm putting it in D tier. It is sad how far this has fallen. It's not good anymore. Revenger. This one's interesting. I think I'll put it in C tier. Basically, if you're losing, this card gains more shorthand. Revenger can be pretty good, especially when it comes to, I guess, shorthand style decks. But the thing about Revenger is you have to be losing in order for it to do better. So, and the problem with Revenger is if you're winning with Revenger, eventually that shorthand is going to disappear. It's really best for getting a second wind. Essentially, Revenge is shallow and empty, just like in real life. And it can be used on some niche decks. I haven't really used Revenger much myself, but it's not the greatest attack on hit or attacking card. It's just kind of okay. You can use it if you want. Meh. Okay. Reverse. I think Reverse is currently underrated. It's about to get a buff in that it is going to be Reverse is going to get a buff in that it's going to be a discard, which is very nice. As it stands, I'd give Reverse a B tier. I think it's underrated. Because, of course, Reverse lets you reverse the turn order. It's pretty useless in 1v1s. On teams, it's pretty good. And on free-for-all, it is also quite nice if you're trying to get at someone who's been attacking you, and it's okay. Its ultra-rare effect, though, returns all stolen cards, or all given cards, which includes poison, grudges, and of course, cards that have been tricked, grabbed, or otherwise stolen. Because of this, it's pretty good. An ultra rare reverse is pretty good counterplay if you're dealing with someone who likes to use a lot of trick cards, or a lot of fascinate cards, or a lot of trick or treat cards. Although, ultimately, as underrated as Reverse is, there are definitely still better things you could be running with that ultra rare slot. So, Reverse is in B tier. Revive, S tier. You discard and you heal. It's that simple. You discard and you heal. You can still, it doesn't end your turn. You can heal a lot with a revive, and it allows you to revive dead players. That's amazing. That is in teams. It's second to none, and in single player, because you can in 1v1s, because you can target yourself with it, you can just heal back a ton of damage. Ultimately, I think it is one of the best filler cards in the game, alongside Snipe. If you have a deck full of a bunch of ultra rares and you need some common cards to fill it out, get a bunch of revives. Revives will keep your deck going. Very, very good cards. Very much worth their value. Use revives. They're good. Revolution. B tier. It's a game changer. Your deck generally has to be. It inverts the rarity. generally, your deck has to be very reliant on Revolution. Like very much built around it. And without Revolution, your deck's gonna be a bunch of like common cards. It's gonna be mid as fuck. Like, your deck, if you're running a Revolution deck, if your Revolution cards all like disappear, either through damage or someone stealing them, or otherwise, you are pretty much doomed, because you really have to build a deck around Revolution, and even more so if someone has like Jump Scare or something. But Revolution does have some benefits in that if someone's not expecting Revolution, you can totally mess up their day. So, used with caution, but overall, it's a decent game changer. It's not terrible. It's not terrible, it's not great, it's just decent. Or I guess just good. Okay. Ruin. Where do I put Ruin? I think Ruin is definitely a very good card, a good skill. It basically clears your opponent's hand, which can be very frustrating, but it is of course an on-hit effect. So, I think for Ruin I will put it in A tier. Ruin is especially effective against stall players. Essentially people who use stuff like Commander and Trap and other stuff like that. I think it's generally very good because, you know, it's just, yeah, like, you're removing their hand, they might have something planned, you ruin their plans. It's quite good. The only thing that's really holding it back, I feel, is it is an on-hit effect. So you actually have to land a hit in order to clear their hand. Other than that, very good card, pretty solid. A tier, deserves it. Severance. A tier. Severance is one of the very few skills that pairs well with Divine Nullification. Severance basically just fucking stops healing altogether. Instead of going to the graveyard, any cards that Severance damage goes to the ruins, and its ultra rare clears out the graveyard as well. This is very good because it stops healing, and healing is some of the most powerful shit in the game, because, you know, it keeps you alive longer. Severance is just, it's overall just really good. I'd say probably one of the best on-hit effects, alongside maybe Ruin. It is an on-hit effect, but since it's more of a healing prevention, I'd say it's definitely an A tier, but I don't think it's quite an S tier, if that makes sense. Like, because, yeah, hits, your graveyard is gone, and any cards that you might have had that would have gone to your graveyard are now in the ruins and can't be used. Ultimately, very good. I don't think it's S tier worthy because it is an on-hit effect, though. Sky High. B tier. Sky High used to be bad. It's been buffed. It's a lot better now. Basically, what it does is it rolls a die based on the opponent's attack, and it has a chance to return to your deck. It's pretty good as a defensive card. It's pretty good as an offensive card that you can use multiple times as well. Essentially, it's pretty decent overall. It ain't a terrible card. But of course, if you're running Sky High, you have to pick between a defensive Sky High and an offensive Sky High. And even though it is, you know, pretty versatile in that regard, it just kind of, like, generally lacks power. It doesn't have really the punch of, say, Severance, or it doesn't have the punch of Severance or the utility of Block. It's just kind of okay, and that's fine. It's not a horrible skill to have. It's actually a pretty good one because it can potentially keep you alive longer, but I don't think it's A or S tier material. Snipe, S tier. This card is on par with Revive in terms of being used as a filler. It's just flat 1 damage, it's ultra rare, flat 2 damage, just to anyone. You can just pop. You just pop someone. It's nice. It's nice and simple. Really good for finishing players off. Really good for dealing with people who spam greed. Generally really good for, in general, like just pestering someone, and it's just a good filler card in general. Doesn't cost much. Easy to use. Just play it in the discard. Boom. Simple. S tier. Species Pride. It is essentially the game changer version of Cheer. C tier. Although, unlike Cheer, it lasts for several turns. So if this were ordered, I would put Species Pride higher than Cheer. Although Cheer is probably more versatile in that you aren't restricted to using a single species if you are doing Cheer. But it does work well with Ultra Rare Mind's Eye, and also in some cases Revenger. So, or really any other skill. So it's not terrible. It's not terrible, but you could probably be running something better. And C tier. Suppression. A tier. This is what allows you to get rid of game changers. The only reason it's not an S tier is because, on account of, being a fucking game changer removal skill, it naturally doesn't work well with other game changers. But it is good, it is useful for getting problematic game changers out there, and if you're using a deck without a game changer, it is a very useful asset to get rid of those pesky game changers that are always fucking up the game. So, it's a good card. A tier. Surge. D tier. It hurts you. There you go, it hurts everyone. And it's ultra rare, it hurts everyone multiple times. It speeds up the game, but it's still hurting you. It ain't good. Although it does technically have the highest potential for DPS, if it, like everyone. And in 1v1 it isn't good. So just like, man, it's best to stay away from Surge unless you're trolling or something. Trapper. I think Trapper belongs in A tier. Trapper is... Actually, no. Trapper belongs in B tier. Trapper, when you play a card, trap card is shuffled into your deck. If someone hits it while they're doing damage to your deck, they get hit with a bit of damage. It's only one trap card, and if you draw it, it's a disturbed rarity. You don't want a disturbed rarity. It's like a poison rarity. It doesn't do anything when discarded, which is okay, but it does jam your hand, which can get annoying. You don't want it. But yeah, trap is generally it's pretty solid. You don't want a lot of them unless you're building a funny haha troll deck. But generally you don't, or a stall deck. But generally you don't want a lot of trap cards. Because they just clog up your deck and your hand, and yeah, they're pretty useless unless someone actually trips them. So B tier. Trick. I'd say Trick is A tier. I think it's the best of the card stealing skills, because it isn't a non-hit effect. and essentially it's kind of like pressure in the way it works, except it trades a card, which is random, which ain't the best, which is why it isn't an S tier. But as an ultra rare card, it trades your lowest cost card for your whoever you're trading with's highest cost card. This can result in, for example, trading a trap card for an ultra rare, or a common for an ultra rare, or a soldier for an ultra rare. It has a lot of usability. It has a lot of synergy with stuff like Commander, Trapper, all kinds of things. Ultimately, I think it is the best of the theft cards. Slightly below it, I will put Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat steals the cards in people's hands when they fail to defend it, or just attacks if they choose to replace it. Simple, straightforward. It is an on-hit effect that requires you to essentially, win offense, which takes a few points, but it does allow you to steal basically a person's entire hand, which is very funny. It can absolutely mess up someone's day. Actually, I think I could probably put it in A tier. In some ways, it's very similar to like a funny Ruin. Although I'd say it's slightly worse than Ruin. Or like, well, I guess it's a trade-off, because you could just, it doesn't do damage if you lose to it. It just steals your cards. But it's very similar to, it's actually very similar to Ruin in that way. It's a pretty good one. Wild Element, definitely A tier. No question about that. It just allows you to pick any element. It's a very amazing defensive skill. Its ultra rare causes it to hit twice, which is why it isn't an S tier. And one more, well, it hits the element twice, which is why it's not an S tier for that reason. And the only other reason it's not an S tier, you have to draw a card of every single fucking element, and it takes so goddamn long. It is a lot of effort, so just be wary when you're making one of these. It takes a really long fucking time to make all the EX cards, but ultimately, I'd say it is worth it. Like, it's very useful. It can fit on pretty much any deck. It can deal with pretty much any. It can deal with any element. So you don't have to worry about element with this card. You can use it offensively with something like Elemental Torrent. You could just use it defensively as is. It works great. Yeah, it works great. Ultimately, good skill. Finally, Yin Yang. I haven't used the skill much, but from what I've seen of it, it's really good in its ultra rare. It's pretty good. It's just good. It doesn't really have a downside. Its ultra rare is good. It causes you to basically win ties. It causes you to win ties in specific attributes, which is very nice to have. It allows you, that's its ultra rare. It allows you to win ties depending on certain attributes. Its regular ability is no more ties. A tie is a win now. Like, for you, a tie is a win for you now, which is just nice. It's just overall nice to have. It's not game breaking, but it ain't horrible either. It's amazing. It's just one of those plain old good skills. And that has been my Monster Cards skill tier list. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you at some point in the future. Goodbye.